Okay, so what are the best towns if you work in Boston or around the city and you still want that New Hampshire feel when you come home at the end of the day? If you're thinking of moving to New Hampshire, there are three towns that I really love when it comes to being a commuter and still needing to get closer to Boston. And how I picked that has to do with one, proximity to highways. Is it close to a major highway? Because obviously everything is relatively close up in the Northeast, but the actual driving distance comes down to how close are you to getting onto that highway and making that faster drive down to the city? And the second thing is we looked at was is there stuff to do there when you get there? We don't want to just be driving home from work to a house. You want to come home to a community. And so I looked at not just towns that are close to the border and close to highways, but also have a little bit of a life pulse when you do go there. And the last thing is which areas have the most New Hampshire feel? People move to New Hampshire because they want a larger lot size, they want to be a part of a community. And so I looked at that when it comes to the towns that I chose. The last thing that I looked at when I was looking whether this is a great town for a commuter is how affordable is it? Obviously, some of the best towns, the most commutable towns, are also extremely unaffordable in New Hampshire, and it really wouldn't give you that New Hampshire feel of getting a little bit more for your dollar. So if you're commuting to Boston every day, but you still want to live in New Hampshire, these are my three favorite areas to live in. It's either Derry, Londonderry, Pelham, or over in the Hampton, Portsmouth area. Those three areas are going to be your best towns to actually be able to do something when you get there, but also still have a relatively easy commute. So starting with Derry and Londonderry, obviously this is close to 93 as well as 495. You're going to take 93 to get down that way, so it's relatively close to different routes. Derry and Londonderry have a very large commercial area, meaning that they have a lot of restaurants, a lot of shops. It's pretty established up there, and the one reason why I think it's a great place is it's still relatively affordable, and that's why it's been a relatively hot area to move to for people looking to still be somewhat close to the Mass border, whether or not they're commuting to Boston itself. The second area that I love is the Hampton and Portsmouth area. Obviously, you're a little bit closer to the beach, you're more 95-centric, so depending on where you work in Boston, it's good to know whether or not you're going to be taking 93 or 95, because there's going to be different routes and the traffic is going to be different depending on what you're looking for and what you're willing to do for a drive every single day. So I love Hampton and Portsmouth because right now, it's one of my favorite places to be overall. I think it's really it has everything that you could be looking for in terms of that New Hampshire feel. You can find the cities, you can find the open fields and big mountains, you can find the beach really easily. And it's also just about 45 minutes to an hour from Boston, depending on where you need to get to go. My last favorite area is going to be the Pelham area. So Pelham is a really big geographic town, meaning that it covers a large area. So you could live in West Pelham and be really far away from the highway, or you could live in East Pelham and live, a stone's throw away from the highway. So you got to be careful of where you are in Pelham, but overall I think Pelham is one of the closest towns to the actual Mass border. It's very 93-centric, so if you want to take 93 into Boston, it's going to be a quick commute for you, and it has a lot of access to its own commerce, as well as the commerce that's available at the Tuscan Village over in the Salem, New Hampshire area, and even just south of the border in Mass if you're not worried about the tax-free thing. So those are my three favorite areas or towns in particular that are best for commuting to Boston. And as I said, I think it really comes down to where in Boston are you going to be working, and then what's most important to you about the town. If you're thinking that you want to be really out in the mountains, then some of these towns might be too close, might be too populated for you. Whereas if you're looking for a little bit of a balance of both, then these are going to be your three best areas that you should focus on if you're thinking of moving up over the border. So if you're thinking of making a move up from whether it's Massachusetts or somewhere else to the great state of New Hampshire, please text me at the number on the screen.